Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Bidman. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and give this video a thumbs up because today we are talking all about how to do your base makeup really well. So stay tuned. I've already washed my face and done my skincare, so let's get started with talking all about the base of the makeup, which is the foundation, the concealer, any color correcting that we're doing, a little bit of highlighter, a little bit of blush, and maybe even some bronzer if we're feeling like we need a little kick in the skin. So let's get started with the color correcting. That is the first thing that you want to do. You don't want to do your color correcting after you've put on your base. That's not how color correcting works. So if you have any discoloration underneath the eye or on your eyelid, if you have anything on the face that you want to conceal with the help of a color corrector, now is the time to do it. So I'm going to start with color correcting underneath my eye, just with my finger. You can absolutely do this with a brush, and I really like going in with hands first and then a brush, because a brush will take away any excess product that has been left on the skin. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting in this inner corner right here, because this, especially as we get older, gets very purple and blue. So definitely make sure that you're adding just a little bit of that color corrector. It will just brighten up the face in a way that concealer can't. Now, if you're thinking right now, why don't I just go in with a thicker concealer to conceal everything? Concealer doesn't work like that either. It's supposed to match your skin. It's supposed to look like skin. The only time you want to think about using a really heavy or full coverage concealer is if you have some kind of a spot that really needs that extra pigmentation. Color correcting is going to be so much better for underneath the eyes and around the eye area than just going in with a really heavy thick concealer. You also want to think about the area of the face that you are concealing. Your eye area moves more than the rest of your face throughout the day because that's where we show a lot of our expression. And if you gunk it up with a bunch of heavy thick foundation, concealer, anything like that, it's just going to get stuck under there and it's going to emphasize fine lines and wrinkles. So you want to be really careful with the products that you're choosing. I'm going in with the Bobbi Brown corrector, and even though this is a thick one, I'm doing it in very thin layers. So that is another way to go. If you feel like you really just can't seem to cover up your dark circles, you're using a color corrector, you're using the right techniques, and you just can't seem to cover that up even with 2 thin layers of concealer, then absolutely feel free to bump up to a fuller coverage concealer if you need to. But first, I would double check your corrector, because your corrector is supposed to, if it's the right color, can knock out any discoloration. It is truly magical. I've seen it. I've done it myself. I've seen it done by other makeup artists. It is, when you find the right color, it is magical. It will cover up tattoos. That is how brilliant and how well the right shade of corrector works on the skin. You just have to choose the right one. Again, I think Bobbi Brown has some of the best correctors out there because they have something for everyone. They have something for fair all the way to the darkest of skin tones. So whatever you need, Bobbi Brown is a great place to go. Then I'm going to do a little color correcting on my lids with the NARS Tinted Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. This is just, for me, I think it's the best. As long as you can find, it comes in 3 shades, as long as one of the shades works for you and your skin tone, I just think you can't beat it, because it holds on, it grips onto those eyeshadows, and it gives you that color correcting. So already you can see that this side of my face looks brighter than this side, and once I do this side of the face, all of a sudden I don't feel like I need to wear a ton of makeup. And a lot of the time when we are putting on makeup, we feel like the more we put on, the better it's going to look, but that usually isn't the case. Usually the more makeup we put on, the heavier our makeup application is, the worse it looks. You want to work in really light layers, but you want to work in smart layers as well. So again, I'm using my ring finger because our ring finger is the weakest finger that we have. And then I'm going to go in with a fluffy brush, something like the 57 from Sephora, and I can tap where I want to make sure that product stays in place, and I can blend out where I want that product to just melt into the skin a little bit more. And then you can assess. Then you can look, you can take a step back, you can look in your mirror, make sure you're not working super close because things look very different a little bit further away, and you can see if you need a little bit more. So like right here, to me on the mirror off camera, I can still see a little bit of darkness. So I can try to just cover that up with concealer, which is what I normally do. And I know that like 2 thin coats of concealer is going to be enough. But I can just go back in with a little bit more corrector and try to knock that out. Because I do have, especially when I don't get enough sleep, I've got this blue vein over here that just peeks through my skin. But I also know that this is an area that is going to be moving a lot. So again, I don't want to put a ton of product right there. So the less product I can put on, the better around my eyes. Now I don't have any spots. I don't have, you know, I've got a little bit of redness around my nose. If I was going in for an audition for something, especially if it was going to be on screen, then I could color correct that with something that was a little bit more yellow. But I can also use something that is kind of salmony pink, and that will knock that out as well. So you can go in with your brush at that point and just add a little bit of lightness and see that just really knocked out that redness. So for women, especially around that time of the month, for whatever reason, your nose, especially the sides of your nose, get red. And then it just goes away as your hormones rebalance themselves. So again, it really is on a daily basis just assessing your face, because what you eat, what your hormones are doing, how much sleep you're getting, how much caffeine, how many vegetables you're eating, how much water you're drinking really affect the face. And what you're eating, what you're doing the week before, the month before, all that is going to show up on your face at some point. Now we've got a really nice neutralized face. So now we can decide if we want to go in with foundation or concealer. This is where it depends on what you're doing with the rest of your makeup. If you're going in with a heavier eye look, I would wait on the concealer so you're not wasting your time right now. You could go in with your foundation if you felt like that will help you to do your eye look better. For me, if the eyes are going to be my focus, I'm going to do the eyes first. I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to do the eyes first and then do the rest of my complexion. Today, because we were talking about skin, my focus is going to be on the lips. So I don't have to worry about any fallout or cleanup with the eyes because it's a very minimal eye look that I'll be doing. I like to go in with concealer first instead of foundation because I have that darkness under there. And I find that if I put a little bit of that foundation underneath my eye and then concealer, it just doesn't work. Concealer has to go through more testing for around the eye area than foundation. Can you use your foundation underneath the eye? Yes. Does it work for everyone? No, it does not. For me, it doesn't work. Just the way that my face moves throughout the day, I need a separate concealer, and I need that to just be in that area instead of my foundation. So I'm going to take my concealer again on my ring finger, and I can tap it in. Or I can do the triangle of light, the fan of light, whatever you want to call it. And I'm basically just tapping that right on top of the color corrector. You don't want to use too many swiping motions because then you're just moving that corrector around. And most concealers are a heavier dosage of pigment. So, you know, you don't really want to be swiping it around, otherwise you're defeating the purpose of putting on your concealer. I'm going to wipe off my brush just on any kind of towel that you don't mind getting dirty. And I can feel on my skin that I have extra. So I'm just going to tap that in. You could just go straight in with your brush as well. It really just depends on your comfort level. I like a fluffy brush. If you need, again, if you need more coverage and you need it faster, then you want to go with something that is a little bit more dense, and that will lay down that pigment faster. Can you use the Beauty Blender? Yes, it is beautiful. It works really well with certain formulas and not so great with other formulas. So I find that with water-based formulas, the Beauty Blender is amazing because you add that water into the sponge. With a lot of the silicone-based ones, I find I waste a lot of product. So just play around with your tools, play around with your makeup, try all different kinds of techniques, from just using hands to using hands and brushes, using sponges. It's just a level of comfort and what you feel gives you the best look. Also remember that brushes were designed for makeup artists. So your brush should be coming in at this kind of a level instead of this level. This is going to give you a very different result than going in like this. Now that we've done the concealer and the color correcting, now we can move on to the actual base, so the foundation. Foundation, I think if you can, get yourself into a store, get yourself into a Nordstrom with the beauty consultant who works with all brands, get yourself to a Sephora, and just play. Just tell them exactly what you're looking for. Some of my favorite brands, again, are Bobbi Brown, Lisa Eldridge, of course. However, until she comes over to the United States, that one is really tricky. I think in order to find my shade, even though I had the foundation finder cards, I went through 7 foundations because they're all so similar. She did such a great job. There's something for everyone, but it is a lot of trial and error with that brand, at least right now, although I have a feeling that she's coming over to the States pretty soon. So hopefully that will become a little bit easier. I also really like the Estee Lauder brands in general. I think they have something for everyone, from that fuller coverage. If you have a lot of pigmentation on the skin, I'm always going to suggest that you do your concealing and go with a lighter weight foundation because you want that skin to peek through. It just looks a little bit more natural. You can really hammer it away on the concealer in just those specific spots where you need concealing, and then go in with a medium to light coverage foundation, and the effect is truly beautiful. It doesn't look like you're wearing a lot of makeup at all. So right now I'm just bouncing my brush because I want the concealer and the foundation to blend in together. I want them to have a conversation with each other. And again, I am on the drier side, especially in the winter. So I am using quite a lot of oils and very emollient things with hyaluronic acid that are sucking any kind of moisture back into my skin. So you might feel like later on you need to do a little touch up because your oils and your skincare are kind of peeking through. For right now, this is a really nice, it's a really good base. From here, depending on what you're wearing, you can decide if you want to use a little bit extra down your neck, on your ears, if you're getting your pictures taken for a wedding or something like that. But overall, the base looks great. So right now, I'm going to go in with powder, the Hourglass. Again, this is kind of like, if we're thinking about powders as foundations, this kind of a powder is a light to medium coverage powder, which I love because if I do need to go back in with any kind of concealing or anything like that, it's going to play really nicely with this. I'm just going to take my really big brush and I'm just going to morph it around my face. You can get a smaller brush, and again, I've said this before, if I was working on a client, I would be using a smaller brush on these areas, but when you know the contours of your face, you can really move your brush around in a way that you can't when it's on a client. So I powdered basically through the center of my face, and now I can go in with finishing touches like blushes, bronzers, and highlight. I'm going to start with the highlight, so Lisa Eldridge, and I'm just going to take a little bit with these liquid highlighters and with the powder highlighters. I don't want my highlighter to come into the room before I do, so I'm just looking for a very natural glow. Again, I'm going to be using my ring finger just to pat that right on that bone because I don't want to get it too close to the eye. I want it to sit kind of on these Pac-Man shapes, these parentheses, right around the eye area so that when I move, I just have a little bit of that glow. I am going to go in with a different brush now with Duo Fiber because it's very, very fluffy, very, very soft. So it's just going to give me a really, really nice finish. And I didn't really powder over here, so I'm not worried about powders and liquids and creams kind of getting gunked up together. Now I'm going to go in with my blush. So I'm going to use the PIXI blush. And again, I'm just going to wipe down my finger because it is, at this point, it's getting a little cloggy. And I'm going to take my ring finger once again and just start to blend that into the skin. When you're looking for a more natural look, using creams is the way to go. They might not last as long, they might not have that 12-hour lasting power, but this is so easy to bring in your bag if you feel like you need a little blush touch-up. And just look, it gives you just the most natural flush. This is in Petal Pink, I believe. Now is the time if you feel like you need some kind of color, a little bit of bronzer to wake up the complexion, and that's when you want to grab something like the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. So I'm going to grab my bronzer brush. I'm just going to saturate my brush. I'm going to knock off any excess. And then I'm looking right under that bone where I put my highlighter. And you can even just kind of like poke around your face. So here's the underside of my bone. It usually lines up with the middle of your ear. And that's where I'm going to swipe forward and then back. And my brush is so fluffy that it is going to disperse this product really, really nicely. If you want more of that contoured look, you're going to definitely want to use a smaller brush. You can also, this is also a really great time, and something that I really love to do is take my 201 or something like that and just start to build up my eye look. So bring that onto the lid and then bring that right into the socket. And again, the 201 is a really, really fluffy brush. So it just disperses, and look, I've already have a really lovely defined eye that seems to be very cohesive with the rest of my look because it is, because I'm using the same shades, tints and tones in multiple areas of my face. So that is how you do a really nice base for whatever kind of makeup you're going to be doing, whether that is a lip look, an eye look, anything like that. So now I'm going to cut out, finish my makeup, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it answered a lot of your questions, and I hope it was really helpful and just guiding you on how to do base really, really well and get you set up for any kind of makeup look. I do fashion videos every Wednesday, beauty videos every Friday. Make sure that you are subscribed and hitting the thumbs up, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye!